paid for through additional levy dollars. So those are there for you tonight. Included there also, you have two resolutions. One would be for approving the budget, the preliminary budget that was issued, and the other one would be for the other option. Of course, in this meeting, of course, we can review and we can change things. One thing I always highlight is that with a preliminary budget, of course, you can cut down from the number that you start at, but you cannot raise the number that you from where you start at the end of the year. So just something to keep in mind as we move forward.
That only applies to the levy, not to the utility rates?
Yes, it would be to reply to the levy, that's right. Yeah, utility rates, those are something that we set that doesn't go to the county. So with that, I mean, if there's any questions or comments, I know I've met with, sure, and we can definitely take public input as well on that, yeah. But if you have any preliminary comments or questions before we start that.
Yep. Anybody got anything? We kind of whittled down some stuff. I'll just be upfront, I'm in favor of approving the cut-down version. Just because, just like last year, I know we can approve something higher now that comes out in the proposed, and we can always lower it in December, but this is a number that I'm really comfortable with inflation where it's at and what we're doing and what we know. And if something happens between now and December, I'll repeat like I said last year, then we'll just have to tighten our belts like everybody else does. So if we approve the budget at that's a 5.9% increase. If we take the new property coming in, it's just over 2%. So if something changes between now and December, then we just have to look for somewhere else to cut. Instead of leaving ourselves a big cushion and saying, oh, well, it just went up to, we'll just go ahead and spend it. So that's just my opinion. Anybody else got anything?
I agree with everything you said. I'd just like to note that, you know, as the administrator said, you know, we actually lowered the general fund levy, and the increase is almost purely from the debt service, which was taxpayer approved from the vote, so.
Anybody else? Brian, anything?
It worked last time, so I get it.
I mean, I have confidence.
I understand
in
the process. So
Yeah, I have confidence in the 5 people that are gonna make the decision that something hits the fan in October, and we say, boy, we approve this levy, we can't go over it, we'll figure it out. I mean, we're all smart enough to figure it out, just like we would at home if you have your job or you have your salary and the furnace goes out in November, we don't just get to go to our boss and say, well, I need a 3% increase because my furnace went out. No, you figure it out. Right? I think everybody up here is smart enough to do that.
do we have any, like, insurance things we're worried about, like last year? Is there anything that we're thinking is going to come that we don't have numbers on between now and when we have to set that actual number?
We don't have the exact insurance, but
I mean, the estimate this year was 10% or something like that, wasn't it, Linda?
That's what the estimate was 10% for insurance.
Yeah.
But we won't find out until October, or
Yeah.
the end of October.
And we include the 10%, so.
We kind of
Yeah, so
thought
that
about
number
that
is
last
budgeted.
time.
That number is budgeted in the initial budget, yep.
Just thinking of those unforeseen things that we know might be coming versus we didn't think it was going to happen, then it did. There's a little bit of a difference, but I do agree. I have no issue with the second option.
Mel, anything? Nope. I will open it up for public comment. If there's anybody here who would like to comment on the budget, come on up and say something if you'd like. Okay. With that, I'll make the recommendation, or I'll make the motion to approve the cut-down budget levy as proposed. I'll look for a second.
I'll second.
Thanks, Paul. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks for all the work on that for Tim and staff and department heads and everybody who put the last couple of months into that. Do we have to do the budget separate from the levy?
Yeah, so we would want to approve that preliminary budget
Okay.
as well.
Okay, and I'll make a motion to approve the 2024 preliminary budget. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Mel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. The administrator's report.
Sure. I've got a couple things for us to take a look at tonight. Some of them you're familiar with. We've got the,
Are you going to G4?
that one you added
Sorry.
there.
I don't have my glasses on. G4, possible vacation of the 18th Street right away. I apologize.
Sure, we can talk about that too.
We'll cut Tim.
No problem. So, previously in May, we had discussed this, May 24th meeting, we talked about a section of road on the north side of town, I think is it 18th Street, I think?
18th Street.
It's not actually a road, it's a right-of-way that was platted as part of a plat back in 1958. We had the resident that lives adjoining that come in today again, and he is requesting that it continue to be snow plowed. I know in the past, the council indicated, because it's a private drive, they felt it was inappropriate for the city to be plowing that. And that was kind of the feedback that you gave me in May, but I wanted to just reiterate that. And one thing that I would recommend is if we are not going to be plowing this, that we look at vacating that right-of-way.
So it's still our right-of-way, then we should probably plow it.
Well, I mean, it's not, we do have other right-of-way in town that's not plowed. It's a gravel and mud section that's used as private drive.
Shifted down is correct, the entrance is shifted from the picture.
Well, so if you look at that picture there,
all
right in
lined
front of
up.
Mr. Toon's house there's a concrete pad, which the city and during our project was poured, that would still provide him access to his home. We would be willing to, I think, to plow that out if we needed to, but it's just a matter of going down that right-of-way and plowing it to the backyards. Typically, we don't do that if it's not an improved road.
It veers off in both directions now, to both homes.
If it was vacated, what happens to these property lines?
So the property would be split between the two adjoining properties. Half of it would go to the property owner in the north, half would go to the property owner in the south.
So Tune and, is that Foot would gain half that space back on either side?
That's right.
Which is right now a gravel road.
I mean, you can see the overhead there in the picture. I mean, there's some gravel on it, yes, mud and gravel, yes.
Is there a gravel road that goes behind it now and around the back of Foot's property?
Go ahead. Got something?
Yeah, so part of the design process, yes, there is a big concrete driveway apron that goes down the potential of 18th Avenue with a platted right-of-way. During the design process, we were going to leave the road that you see there in front of the Foot residence as their access and then kind of cut it off to the new Quick Trip property that you can see to the south. Both those property owners requested that gravel road go down this right-of-way to ultimately allow the Foots a little easier. They have a fair amount of truck traffic to get out. So they actually go out from behind their house out to 18th Avenue across Shooty property and go between the houses. And that was requested from the two property owners, actually all three property owners. Shooty was aware of that too. So that was a request from those property owners. And then just to add a little bit, there's other locations in town where we have multiple driveways that are in public right-of-way. Old Highway 14 by like CHS, there's some properties there that go down a public right-of-way that is not currently maintained by city staff. So that's been a past council direction. That's kind of held the line, right? And held the past practice from the council from a public works standpoint. So then you can actually make an argument that every single property owner in the room has a driveway out on public right-of-way, right? Your driveway aprons are not maintained by the city. So a little different here. I get it that there's multiple properties coming off here, but we don't practice that on other properties. So the vacation thing, I think we can discuss. There may be some reasons to keep it. I want to maybe think about that a little bit more. And then if it was vacated, we would likely recommend to have an access easement, because if we cut that right away in half, give the north half to Tune, south half to Foot, or it gets ultimately dedicated back to them, Foots would be ultimately traveling on Tune's private properties. We'd have to maintain an access agreement across that, so it would still be underlying property, would be privately owned. We just would have to maintain an access easement so that property could access that. So, and then we did tear out the gravel road in front of the Foots residence. So I think it looks a lot nicer from a city perspective. And I think maybe the city may have plowed this in the past. I think it might be part of the discussion that I think it's a change in what we've done in the past. So, but we wanted to apply what we've done in other parts of the town. Was the discussion I think we had in the spring. So, just wanted to add that in for clarity.
Did you said that kind of like frontage road was removed?
Yep, on the far east side of Tune there, that is ultimately still in the state right-of-way, actually that's city right-of-way there, where you see kind of that gravel road that basically ultimately Tune was using. So Tune was coming in there by the northeast corner of Quick Trip,
Right.
driving along the east side of the Foothouse to enter their driveway. We put a driveway right between Foot and Tune's coming off 57, and there's a second driveway to Quick Trip. So we basically separated the two residences from Quick Trip. And they requested to remove the gravel road on the east side of Toons, again, in our public right-of-way, and then we construct the gravel road going between the two residences, so that way Foote and Shutey can get access to their property. So then Foote drives along the north side of the property to the back west side of
Yeah.
the property to get in there. So I think it works nice from a engineering standpoint.
I mean, where would this 18th Street go? Like, you'd have to end up getting right away from Shutey to continue it on, and then you run into that Dodge County land that we just, I forget what it was called, we kicked out of the city,
They asked it to be separated.
which is gonna get dedicated to being
A park.
parked to preserve the landfill area or whatever, so it's not like we can utilize having a road there anyway, right? For anything?
Yep, yeah, yep.
So if you look at the map along I'll call it the backside, we have planned a backage road. So when we built the roundabout, we built, out to the backside of, we'll call it Quick Trip.
Mhm.
And then we also secured right-of-way, and you can kind of see it in the figure there behind Foote and Quick Trips.
Mhm.
So that's gonna be public right-of-way maintained by the city that was dedicated from the county. So when Shutey develops, or the city at some point, when that Shutey property gets developed, I would anticipate that there would be a frontage road constructed, or if Dodge County was to construct something there, that backage road would be constructed, and then we'd have a discussion. I think MnDOT has even provided a letter that says that they would like that access to go off of 57, or remove that, so that way Foote and Toons could potentially have access off of a backage road as opposed to directly on Highway 57. And then to your question on where that right-of-way would go, when Shutey develops, that's gonna be the conversation, right, of, all right, Mr. Shutey, when you develop, do we come in off the backage road, do we have, he owns property to the north?
Mhm.
And there's also some other additional right-of-way, it's not shown on your map, farther north that he's actually been farming, those little stub roads off.
Yeah, if you follow down in the packet there, you can see the original plat. So you've got, that's 18th Street that's on the overhead image, but then you've also got 20th there, kind of a block north, or 2 blocks north.
I apologize, I didn't realize multiple sheets. So yeah, those right-of-ways I believe still exist. So I think when, Shutey develops, I think that's gonna be the conversation, right, of, all right, what are you planning, how does that work? How does that work with the new right-of-way that he would be dedicating, and then how does that tie into the old right-of-way, and how does that tie out to 57? So, I'm not, against going down this path, potentially vacating the right-of-way may limit our future, options, if you will, if that right-of-way, we'd like to maintain that potentially. Or road when Shutey ultimately is developed, I don't know. But it'd be part of the discussion on what happens up there. So I don't know that vacating really benefits the city at all, if it's,
Well, it shoots down any question of having to plow it if it's not the city's anymore, right?
you set a policy that you don't do that, and that's been a past council direction, so. And again, everybody has a driveway on city property, city right-of-way. Every driveway apron into a driveway is that way, so they're not plowed either, so that's kind of the way.
In fact, they're the opposite of plowed, they get full of snow in it.
They do, yeah. It's a fair conversation, 'cause it's a multi, 3 properties use a driveway, so it's a shared driveway essentially.
And I mean, if we want to talk about it or consider it, we don't need an absolute decision tonight, but we, just wanted to bring it to you because obviously we had this request from a resident, so.
Wouldn't this, we have to go through planning and zoning first? Is it more of a zoning thing? Planning?
Yeah, I think that would probably make sense to drop it down to their level, that's true.
I mean, let them get the nuts and bolts and...
Especially if we're looking
figure
at
out.
vacating anything, yeah.
We have to have a public hearing to vacate.
Yeah.
And we just put that new entrance in for them, and if we think we're eventually going to do more work around it, maybe leaving that, not annexing it now and wait till later, see if we're actually gonna use it all. Might be
I
a
think the
thing.
driveway would stay there.
You said they
Still
don't-
use it. No construction would change. We would leave it.
Even if we connect to the back of their house there, you said?
Just we would-
Didn't 57, didn't MnDOT eventually want that gone?
Yeah, that would
Eventually.
potentially be gone.
Yeah.
But not the road, just the entrance.
Just the entrance, yep, so they can get through to the backside. If we vacate though, that's gonna make it much more challenging.
Potentially, yeah.
We want to make sure they have access. I mean, right,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the ultimate thing at the end, we want to make sure they have access without being inhibited. So, okay, let's drop it down to planning and zoning and get some more information
All right.
as far as what you want to do.
We'll direct that to the next planning and zoning meeting in October.
Thank you. Administrators report this time, for
All
real.
right. A couple items just to highlight here, and then just a couple other things in the packet itself. So, do have that information on that stagecoach trail discussion, so some of you are familiar with, I had included that rather lengthy document that was promulgated back in 2012, I think. So, City of Byron has approached us about it and approached Olmsted County, so we're having some high-level conversations at a staff discussion about how that could work forward. We did extend that trail out along 16th Street, out past the Comet Acres property, or well, we didn't, but the developer did. And so we do see there being some value in getting that connected, especially if they are able to make that Oxbow Park connection. I think that would have some value to us, but just preliminary, so just giving you a heads up on that. I've included some information on SRO changes. As many of you are aware, the state's laws change with that, and so many school districts in the state of Minnesota don't have SROs right now in the districts because of issues that have been potentially identified by the departments that staff them. So we're following that opinion from the Attorney General. So at this point, that's kind of the guidance that we have, but if something does change, I know I've been trying to communicate with the police chief and let them know what the league's kind of made a decision on, or what their focus is on too. So I don't know if you have anything else you want to highlight on that tonight. Okay. It's just sort of a situation that's in flux. They've talked about it a little bit at the legislature, possibly doing a special session to fix the issue. Currently, I think we're intending to keep the SRO in the school, at least as far as I know. And if something does change, we'll certainly let you know as fast as we can. A little information about MMUA there, 24 budget we've got, and then just some updates. I've got included in there a letter from the Dodge County Ambulance. So this is an issue we talked about last year, just to give you a heads up that that issue is resurfaced again, and I'll be attending a meeting there on the 27th of September to discuss with them where they see this moving forward. Basically, they're having, I think, some continued financial instability at the ambulance district level, and some staffing issues, and they wanted to see where their path is forward. So if you have any questions on that, I'm certainly glad to answer those. Otherwise, you've got a copy of that letter included in your packet. I think that is all I've got for tonight.
Okay. Master plan?
Yeah, I talked about that already. That's the
Okay,
copy of
nothing
the
else.
Stagecoach. Yep.
Okay, nothing separate you wanted to say
Nope.
about that, okay. On the personnel, the first two, we have a retirement of firefighter Rudy Ratz, effective September 11th, and resignation of firefighter Adam Lee, effective September 8th. They both moved out of the service area, call area, so with that, I'd like to thank Rudy for all his service, the fire department over the years, and wish him the best on his move. I'll entertain a motion to approve his retirement. Thank you. Do you have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Ryan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Entertain a motion to approve the resignation of firefighter Adam Lee.
A motion.
Thanks, Dan. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Mel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Leave of absence for firefighter Brandon Charlstrom, effective September 1st through December 1st. It's a short-term leave of absence. The letter's in the packet. Any questions on that, we can get to the fire chief, but with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the leave of absence. Thanks, Mel. Do I have a second?
Second that?
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Number 4, resignation of Assistant City Administrator, Finance Director Jessica Royer. That letter's in your packet. You've received the other letters. We wish Jessica the best in her next endeavor and thank her for her service to the City of Casson, and I'll entertain a motion to approve that resignation. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Mel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. With that, staff has contacted our auditor, Smith Schaefer, and they're gonna come in and help with some of the day-to-day duties that need to be done for the rest of the year as we get that position posted and hopefully get somebody after the first of the year. So with that, and then memo from the police chief recommending the hiring of Tyson Wacker as a full-time police officer. That memo is in the packet. Any questions or comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the hiring of Tyson Wacker as a full-time police officer.
Make the motion.
Thanks, Ryan. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Mel. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. On to, okay, first, before we go to the attorney, anything on the correspondence? Are there any questions or comments on the correspondence? Okay, with that, we are gonna go to a closed session. we received a letter from the union representative, I guess you would call him Alec Rolane, who represents the MNP and Essential Workers Union, requesting a meeting, and we just wanted to run by council in a closed session to get your opinion on that before we did that. So we're gonna go to closed session to discuss that letter and what our next steps will be. When we reopen the meeting, I'll give a recap of what we discussed and then close the meeting. So if anybody wants to stick around, you can go in the other room, wherever, and we'll come get you when the closed session's over. Anybody who's gonna leave for the night, have a good night, and thanks for coming. We'll go to closed session.
They taser the kids that are running away?